I'll just see if I can...
Hi, everybody. Sorry a bit late. We had issues with our camera. Luckily, I've got an IT husband, and it's literally skin of teeth. And actually, no, not skin of teeth, because 2 minutes late. So huge apologies for that. But about half a minute ago, I thought that we weren't going to be able to do this at all. So first thing is to remind you my name. I'm Satinder. I'm a stroke survivor. I had my stroke when I was 20 years old. It was a dense stroke, probably caused by carotid artery dissection. So 2/3 of the left hemisphere brain wiped out. But despite all the odds, and definitely despite the odds, returned to medical studies and was a GP for 25 years. And I had to take ill health retirement 6 years ago, but I'm training to return to general practice. So today we're talking about sleep. And first thing I want to say is I'm not here to preach. I'm just here to give you some information so you can have the facts, and then you can decide what changes you think are compatible with your life and what you feel you might be prepared to change in your life to help with sleep. Even if you think your sleep's okay, it's always good to know what you might be able to do better, because sometimes you think you slept, but actually you haven't had a really good quality of sleep. So a lot of this is going to be about maxing out on top quality sleep. And I think hopefully by the end of this, you'll go, wow, we had no idea how important sleep is. And I didn't before I investigated this as a result of health issues recently. So the other thing to say is the evidence I'm going to be providing is coming from reputable sources. They include Professor Matthew Walker, who's a professor of neurosciences and psychology at University of California. Also, this is information taken from medical and scientific publications, as well as there's a Lancet publication in 2018, and there's also a brilliant book written by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who you might remember from Doctor in the House on telly, and he's done a lot of work on how we can improve our lifestyle to mitigate against illness and so forth. And his book's called 4 Pillars of Health. Excellent read, very easy read as well. And he's done all the hard work so that you get all the top tips, basically. And there'll also be some hacking secrets from some of the world's top athletes as well. So, because even they've realized that sleep is really, really good in terms of improving their performance. So just imagine, we've had strokes, or some of you may have other health conditions, but the bottom line is you have additional strain on your bodies more than you would normally have. So by the end of the day, you're more likely to be fatigued because everything's harder, everything takes longer, and your brain's having to really think about how to negotiate the day. So wouldn't it be great if we could improve on our energy levels without taking drugs? Because some of you may be on quite a few drugs and some of you might not, but maybe you don't want to start to have to take any medical drugs. So the first part of this is going to explain the effects that sleep deprivation has on your body, and the second part is about the insomnia and the things you can do that can improve your sleep. And then I'll round it up with a summary of top tips of things you could do to help you sleep better. So first of all, sleep deprivation is linked to many health conditions and all mental health problems, as it influences so many of our body systems. And just dwell on that one point about mental health. Every single mental health condition out there has sleep as a significant issue related to it. And I'll talk about that a bit more later. So we know that it affects our metabolic systems, our cardiovascular systems, and importantly, our immune systems. And that lack of it has even been linked to Alzheimer's disease. So sleep is like the Swiss Army knife in your body. It attacks and everything, and it helps to solve everything. And it just basically does its job quietly in the background. So, furthermore, pooled data of research taken from millions of people across the world confirms that chronic lack of sleep shortens your life. Uh-oh, not good, eh? So, and yet, on average, we get 20% less sleep than we did back in the 1940s. So back in the 1940s, we were getting on average 8 hours sleep a night. Now it's about 6.4 hours on average that we're getting a night. That means there's some people that are sleeping even less than that a night. And I know because I used to be one of them. So the next thing, research suggests that because of lack of sleep in the United Kingdom, and they've done similar research for other parts of the world as well, that this results in a 2% drop in our GDP from just sleep deprivation. So that's £30 billion a year we could save in the UK if we could just get everybody's sleep a little bit better. So even just 1 hour's sleep, even just 1 hour reduction in sleep a night, I'm going to say that again. I'm just going to have to refer to my notes and I have to get to them. Sorry about this. There's so much to get through. So yes, even just one night of 4 hours sleep results in a 70% drop in your natural killer cells, in which help to fight cancer. So that's bad enough, but on top of that, these natural killer cells are also involved in our immune response. So you're 4 times more likely to get a cold if you're sleep deprived to 5 hours a night. And I suspect that might apply to some of you. During sleep, our bodies, they remove waste, they're healing, and they're repairing. Research has shown that if you have an infection, your brain will trigger sleepiness, and that encourages sleep so that the immune system can do its job. So, and we have evidence that that is what happens. So, because they actually injected people with viruses, volunteers, and found that they were really sleepy. And when they were sleeping, their immune system was activating and they got better. And you know, it's funny because I think about my early medical days and actually throughout my medical career, there's a real machismo in the medical profession about, you know, oh, I only need 3 hours sleep and I can still perform complex surgical procedures. And in our profession, we have this pride in being able to work despite carrying infection. I know I did for all of my working life. And we would frown at people who stayed at home, thinking, oh, you know, wimps, they should be coming into work and infecting the rest of us. But this wasn't the right thing to do. You know, this has not been good for our physical and mental health. So I'll give you a personal example. We're in the middle of lambing at the moment. We've had some problems with some of our lambs not being able to take, their mums not being able to take them for feeding. So we've been hand rearing them, which means we've had some early starts and late finishes to our days. And I've been sleep deprived. And prior to this, I'd had a cold, which was starting to improve. And then I had a couple of nights where I was getting about 5 hours sleep, and bang, my infection got a lot worse, and I'm currently on antibiotics. And I know that's because I was sleep deprived. Now, the other thing that sleep does, just scrolling up, is it quietens our autonomic nervous system. Now, that's a lot of words, but it's a very simple concept to understand. It's made up of 2 parts. One part is called your sympathetic nervous system, and it's like your accelerator. It's a thing that gets you all revved up so you can deal with stress like that tiger that comes in the room. And then you have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is like the brake. You know, it slows you right down so that your body can work on more long-term projects, not just fighting that tiger, dealing with that mortgage issue or that problem you've got with a colleague at work or whatever. It helps you deal more with the long-term health problems, which is really important. And one thing we do know is that when you activate the brake, the parasympathetic nervous system, that it also allows your cortisol levels to drop. And that's important because you need those cortisol levels to drop so that your immune system can work on more long-term projects. And that's what keeps us healthy and what combats disease. And I'll go on to explain when you activate your parasympathetic nervous system. It's basically when you're not running around like a headless chicken. We know that there is a I'm going to put it this way. There are a lot of countries in the world, 70 I believe, that go through daylight saving. So, their clocks will go back in the spring and they will go forward in the autumn. We know that there is a 24% greater incidence of heart attacks in the spring when the clocks go back, because usually people have a bit less sleep when there's a longer days in the summer. And then there's a similar decrease in the percentage of heart attacks in the autumn when the clocks go forward and we're getting a little bit more sleep. Just 1 hour less sleep over a week, around 6 hours a night, say over a week. If you did that each night for a week, it can increase their risk of pre-diabetes as well. Now, pre-diabetes is when, your sugar levels are starting to creep up and your doctor says, you need to cut down on your sugar, you need to have less cream cakes, you need to watch out with your carbs, that sort of thing. And it predicts that you might very likely go on to get diabetes if you don't do some changes to your lifestyle. We also know that sleep, as I mentioned earlier, is abnormal in all mental health conditions. And there's a growing belief it's two-way traffic. So we used to think that you have a mental health issue like depression, anxiety, PTSD, schizophrenia, and as a result of that, you would become sleep would become disturbed. Whereas there's now evidence that actually sleep may, in some situations, actually trigger mental health problems. Sleep deprivation, that is, of course. The other thing is sleep deprivation, and they've done brainwave studies on this, it's very clever, also increases activity in our deep emotional brain centers. And that includes somewhere called the amygdala, which becomes 60% more reactive. Now, the amygdala and these other deep emotional brain centers basically are, as I say, activated up to 60% more when you don't have proper deep sleep. And they make you more angry or more irritable or more reactive emotionally and more impulsive. So generally not a good thing to activate it, especially not regularly. Now, your brain's ability to function is also impaired when you are sleep deprived, but a bit like when people have had too much alcohol and say, oh no, I'm fine, I'm going to drive home, I feel absolutely fabulous. You just don't know that it's affecting your performance because they think they're safe to drive, but they're not. And so we don't always recognize the effect that sleep deprivation is having on our brain's performance. And over time, the way you are with your less energy and perhaps your slightly reduced brain performance becomes your new normal, and you come to accept it. Now, lack of sleep also affects two hormones, which are recognized as major influences of your energy balance. One of them is called leptin, and that's the mediator of long-term regulation of energy. So it suppresses food intake and obviously thereby reduces weight. And then there's ghrelin, which is a fast-acting hormone, and it wants energy instantly, and it plays a role in initiating meals, and it makes you feel more hungry. If your body is tired on waking, it will crave more of the fast energy because ghrelin's sort of been activated. And the result of that is that it needs to get that energy quickly, and it won't get it from the fat cells because they need to go through the papers and check, well, what's this for? Whereas the muscles go, yeah, go ahead, have it. So what happens is the muscles basically give away all this energy, and they can take up to 70% of your energy from your muscles when you wake in the morning, which isn't great because you want your muscles to move. So if you wake refreshed and your body's need more balanced energy through the day because the leptin hormone has been more activated, then you will be less hungry, you'll have less of those cravings, and you'll also have more energy, and you will therefore move more. So less cravings means less calories, moving more means less calories, overall more likely to lose weight. So if there's no other reason you want to lose, if you want to improve in your sleep, it might be to lose weight. Now, top athletes, yeah, this is a really interesting one. Now, they recognize, they've known for a while, the benefits of sleep. Did you know that Roger Federer, now you can't argue, guy's top athlete, probably one of the top in the world alongside Tiger Woods, he sleeps no less than 12 hours a night. Absolutely. That is not non-negotiable. Roger Federer has 12 hours sleep a night. He must know something we don't about sleep. Now, LeBron James, the famous basketball player, he has between 10 and 11 hours sleep a night. And Usain Bolt will never have, again, non-negotiable, will never have less than 9 hours sleep a night. And did you know that 35 minutes before Usain Bolt walked onto the Olympic track, he was fast asleep. So he was fast asleep, woke up and thought, oh, I've got a race. 35 minutes later, he's running his race, smashes the world record and smashes the Olympic record as well. And they've shown that if you are sleep deprived, then you can't jump as high. They've done something called the jump test. But when you sleep well, you can jump a lot higher like a kangaroo, and it improves your performance. So now there are sleep experts who are consulting top teams, sports teams, because they're realizing this is great because there's no drugs involved, and nobody's going to pull us up and say, oh, you put a performance enhancing drug into your body, and we know because we tested your urine, because all you've done is sleep. And apparently it's a great performance enhancer. Now, most of the time, insomnia tends to be a symptom of another problem rather than its own illness. And so to stop it, you'll need to figure out, what's keeping your brain in its wakefulness state and what's preventing you from sleep. So I'm going to next talk about the sleep causes of insomnia, because sleep, as I say, issues can start for a number of reasons. Now, these can include health issues. So there are plenty of medical conditions that can disrupt your sleep, such as allergies, asthma. If your asthma isn't well controlled and you're waking up with it, then you need to go to your doctor and get your medication stepped up. If you have stomach issues like acid reflux, that can keep you awake. Again, you can get that sorted. You might have chronic pain. You may have sleep apnea or mental health problems like depression, anxiety, and your head's just going like this all the time. And all these things may be helped by going to your doctor. Certainly with sleep apnea, they can do sleep studies to confirm whether you have that or not. Now, stress, obviously, that's another issue which stops you from sleeping. I know it was for me. And you may be worrying about work, money, loved ones, a big life change, whatever it is, it's keeping you awake, and you're awake long after the lights have turned out. Alcohol, sorry guys, it may make you fall asleep more quickly. Some people take it as a nightcap, saying, oh, it really helps me to drift off, and I can't relax without it. Problem is, it gives you fragmented sleep, and it particularly fragments your deep sleep. Do you remember that deep sleep I talked about, where your parasympathetic nervous system is allowed to do its work? Because your sympathetic nervous system is switched off, your parasympathetic, and that's the accelerator, and the parasympathetic nervous system can switch on, and that's the brake, and that's the one that does all those, that works on all those long-term projects that are really important for keeping your body healthy. So that is more fragmented because you don't get into the deep sleep to activate those things as well. And it also blocks your REM sleep. Now that's your dream sleep. And your dream sleep is important too, because it's like an emotional first aid. It provides emotional therapy and convalescence. And without it, you just won't get restorative sleep. Caffeine. Oh, you're going to hate me by the end of this, sorry. But by the way, I'm not asking you to stop any of this stuff or to start any of this stuff. I'm just saying, maybe a bit of modification or have days off, or, we'll talk about that in a bit. So did you know that it's actually a psychoactive drug? This is caffeine, and caffeine is in tea and coffee and also in green tea, by the way. And like all drugs, this has a half-life, and the half-life of caffeine is 6 hours. Now, what that means is that if you have a cup of coffee at midday, then at 6 o'clock that night, half of that caffeine will still be in your body. And at midnight, that's 12 hours after you had that one cup of coffee, a quarter of that caffeine will still be in your system. Now, I don't think many of you would take a quarter of a cup of Starbucks to bed with you, or a half a cup of Starbucks to bed with you. So you may want to rethink about the caffeine intake, but also the time you have your last cup of caffeine as well. And just one cup of coffee followed by sleep will decrease your deep sleep by 20%. You won't be aware of this. And this is a personal message to my husband, Mike, who says, coffee doesn't affect me. I can have coffee before I go to sleep. Well, there's evidence that apparently your deep sleep is disturbed by 20%, and you might not be aware of it, but you will be aware that you need an eye-opening cup of coffee in the morning. So next thing, heavy meals late at night. I don't think that's a difficult one to understand. I think we've all experienced, if you eat too late, it feels like it just sits really heavily on your tummy and it's just not moving anywhere. But why should it? Because, your body's trying to sleep, and it's not going to be putting all its energy into digesting your food. And you're kind of waking it up by saying, excuse me, there's a job to do in my bowels here. So try and avoid having heavy meals late at night. Drugs. Now, some prescribed medications will make it harder for you to sleep. Over-the-counter ones as well, particularly those including for allergies or pain. They can also cause insomnia. Daily habits. Small choices you make every day can sabotage your sleep. For instance, the blue light on your phones or your monitors or your tablets, they tell your brain to wake up before bed. So probably a good idea not to just double check that last Facebook post before you go to sleep, because you're, on the one hand, you want to sleep, but you're checking your Facebook posts, and the blue light is saying to your brain, wake up. So next thing is long afternoon naps. Very tempting. Or working late at night, rotating shifts, having young children. Afraid I don't have an answer for that one, because the children always come first. They can also mess up your natural sleep cycle. Exercising late. Now, this stimulates your brain, but it also heats up your body. And to sleep, you need to reduce your body temperature, your core body temperature. But I'll explain how you might be able to help yourself if you can only exercise late at night later. Sleeping in a hot bedroom will hinder a good night's sleep. You should try and sleep in a room which is around 18 degrees centigrade. That will reduce your core body temperature about 2 degrees, and that is what your body needs in order to help it to sleep. Eat at regular times, and go to bed and get up at the same time every day, including weekends, because once you start doing that, then your natural circadian rhythm will kick in, and hormones will rise when they're supposed to rise, and they'll drop when they're supposed to drop, and everything will be very beautiful and flowing, and you won't be confusing your brain and trying to go to work on a Monday, having had a long lie-in over the weekend, and then realizing that, why is it so hard to get up? It's because your brain thinks that you've now on a different time. So we're going to go on now to top 5 lifestyle changes that might help you. So this is kind of, reaching a sort of past the halfway point. Now, sleep at the same time every day, including weekends, to maintain regularity, and try and wake up at the same time every day. Now, obviously, this isn't like set in stone. You count in the minute, say, right, sleep, right, get up. But it's just sort of try and make yourself go to sleep and wake up within the same kind of hours. That will really help you. Keep your bedroom at 18 degrees so your body temperature can drop by that 2 degrees, which is really important to help you sleep. Now, we're a really dark, deprived society with lights all around us. And unfortunately, that doesn't tell your brain that it's sleep time. So, and you think back in time, we used to go to sleep with the darkness and wake up with the sun, but we don't have that now. So we also, because we have artificial light, which sort of dupes us into thinking it's not light, but it's actually still kind of daylight. So what you can do in the evening is just halve the brightness of your lights, whether it means turning half of them off, or whether you have a dimmer switch and you can just down the dial and just make it a bit less bright, and you'll find that it'll have quite a soporific effect. And the reason for that is that your body is then stimulated to produce melatonin, and melatonin helps you to sleep. So that's another thing you can do. Avoid caffeine after noon, 2 p.m. at the latest, if you can, including green tea and tea. And try decaf, because there's some smashing decaf coffees out there these days. And I reckon that, maybe if you did like the Pepsi, Coke, Pepsi and Coke, you can definitely tell the difference between. But I reckon that if you did a challenge between caffeinated and decaffeinated, some of the really good quality ones, you'd probably find that it'd be difficult to really tell a big difference between them. Make 2 p.m. your cutoff for nicotine. That's for all you smokers out there. Yeah, thought you could get away with it, got you too. So if you can, 2 p.m. cut off for your last cigarette. And better still, why not make it a really good reason to quit those cigarettes altogether? Avoid alcohol as a nightcap. I've mentioned earlier about the way it affects your deep sleep and your REM, your dream sleep. So again, avoid alcohol at night, every night. Obviously, be human, socialize, have your coffee, have your alcohol, enjoy yourself, but just be mindful of when you're drinking and how much. If you go to bed tipsy, that suggests you've probably had too much. Walk it out. So many people, when they have problems sleeping, the first thing they do is they just lie there and they get really frustrated about their lack of sleep, and they think, right, okay, I'm just going to have to accept I'm going to have a rubbish sleep. Well, it doesn't have to be like that, because what you can do is, if you are struggling to sleep after 25 minutes or 30 minutes, get up, go into a different room, a darkish room, no food, no screens, no phones, maybe either read a book or listen to some music, wait till you become sleepy again, and then take your sleepy head back to bed. Because the thing is that if you use your bed for watching TV or going on your computer or your phone, then your brain's going to be confused. It's not going to realize that the bed is for sleep. It's going to think the bed is also for doing all those other things. So the bottom line is that if you can't sleep, get up, go into a different room, wait till you get sleepy, and then come back and try and nod off again. And don't fret about it. It doesn't matter. Don't say, oh, I need to sleep. It's when you stop. Usually you get to sleep at 5 a.m, yeah, if you can't sleep. And that's because by that time, you can't be bothered. And that's when your brain goes, oh, I can sleep now, because you've stopped ruminating about it and worrying about it. So if you can, do those things, and your bed should only be for sleep and sex. That's it. Trying to think if there's anything else you should use bed for, and I can't really. Oh yeah, kids climbing in early morning, yeah, obviously you don't want to chuck them out. So that's the next thing. And create a buffer zone, about, couple of hours before bed. Say no to stressful activities. Say no to your work emails if you're working, because no doubt there'll be something or someone who irritates you in an email, or you feel, oh my God, I forgot to do this, and you really don't need that activation of your stress before bedtime. So try and avoid doing anything that might be stressful 2 hours before you go to bed. Stay active. Now, it's absolutely fantastic that the physios have been doing their thing. They've done an absolutely brilliant job. And one of my future podcasts will be about movement and the benefits of movement. And hopefully you'll see how and why the exercise you're doing with the physios is so valuable. And it also helps you to sleep as well. Especially if you exercise your body during the day. Morning's actually the best. So those 11 o'clock sessions are fantastic. It boosts your chance of a good night's sleep. Just try not to do your workouts a couple of hours before you go to bed. If you can only work in an hour or two before bedtime, if that's the only time that you can do your exercising, then I suggest that you take a hot shower or bath, because what that will do, it will bring all the heat to the body's surface and it will reduce your core temperature. But ideally, try not to exercise late at night. Say no to afternoon naps, which we've already talked about. I'm trying to sort of just go through these things again to get it in. And watch what you eat, avoiding those heavy evening meals, alcohol every night. And if you are going to drink alcohol at night, try not to make it just before you go to bed. Oh yes, chocolate and sugary foods right before bedtime. Again, really shouldn't do that. Double check your drugs. Ask your pharmacist or doctor if there are any drugs or supplements you could take that might be keeping you awake, because that is possible. So when should you see a doctor? Well, it's common for a stressful event or a change in your schedule to upset your sleep. And short-term insomnia like this can be treated either with over-the-counter medications or with prescription drugs. And you can certainly be given those, but usually your doctor will have expected you to have a sleep problem for about 3 months before he'd probably advise a short course. And I really do advise that it should just be a short course, and a good doctor won't prescribe you too much anyway, because you can become dependent on them. And also, they're sedating drugs. They're not really sleep drugs. They're just sedating you. They're not really giving you a great quality of sleep, and you do wake up with side effects from them, like dry mouth, metallic taste, feeling a bit zonked during the day as well. So if you've had a disturbed sleep for more than 3 months, and of course, yes, you probably do want to also get checked out for, and it's not due to an acute problem, like you've just had a recent bereavement and there's an obvious reason why your sleep patterns have changed, then your doctor may want to do a physical examination to rule out any health issues, like we mentioned earlier about acid reflux, sleep apnea and so forth, that might be, or poorly controlled asthma that might be driving your poor sleep. They'll ask you questions about, well, they should ask you questions about your health, your daily habits, and any recent stressful events in your life. And as I say, if they think you need medication, then they will offer it, but they will only offer you a short course, and rightfully so. Now, treatments for insomnia otherwise, there's no one size fits all. It's really very individual, and you'll find that some things work better than others. So for some people, cognitive behavioral therapy can help them because it offers different strategies. For instance, it may teach you how to do certain breathing exercises which help you relax. And I'll be touching on that when I do my relaxation podcast. And it also helps you practice ways to ease your anxiety about sleep as well. So for some of you who have got a really long history of sleep problems, that might be something that can help you. That's cognitive behavioral therapy, known as CBT. Alternative therapies, well, there's some evidence for things like acupuncture, meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi. that they can help alongside the traditional insomnia treatments that we use. And in terms of medications, I've also already mentioned some of them. And the one that I used to commonly prescribe was called Zopiclone. There's a few in that group. And as I said before, you shouldn't take them for more than a few weeks because you can become dependent on them. I mentioned melatonin earlier on about how good it is because it helps you to sleep. Well, you can get over-the-counter melatonin tablets, but I would strongly suggest that you talk to your doctor first because it's not strictly regulated as a medication and it doesn't work for anyone. And your doctor may recommend it for specific conditions, but you should really talk to them first before you just go and buy it. Now, whilst popular, there is really very little evidence for those non-prescription sleeping aids which have antihistamines in it. There's no evidence that they work. In fact, they can actually give you unpleasant side effects like daytime sleepiness, dry mouth and blurred vision. So don't think that they're going to help you. Now, I'm just going to check the time. It's nearly 40 minutes that I've been rambling on. I was going to give you a personal experience, but I'm very conscious of your time. And I'm also conscious that it's a lot for you to take in and it's a long time for everyone to have to concentrate for. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you a personal experience, only to say that, I will probably touch on ways that it's affected me in future weeks because I think it will be useful for you to see a direct physical example of the lifestyle changes that I'm suggesting to you and why I'm so passionate about, you trying to at least work your way through one or two of them. So even if you think you are getting fantastic sleep, trust me, there are things you can do that can tweak it and make you at the same level of Usain Bolt and Roger Federer. Top performance is what we all crave for. And we need it because, we are having to work our bodies like any top athlete during the day. The amount of energy it takes just to make sure that the next step is a good step and not a trippy up step, and so forth. We're working really hard, all of us. So I really want to help you to help yourselves because if we can make you feel better, then you're going to live a lot more. And that's really all we want out of life. And with that, I'm going to say bye-bye. Enjoy your rest of your week. Stay safe, stay well, look after each other, and see you next week. Bye for now. Bye.